views and opinions expressed on Xplorers Secrets of the Truth or that of their guests or contributors are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. All information on Xplorers Secrets of the Truth is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information on this talk show or website.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the Explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Welcome back, Truth Seekers. You're tuned in to Explorers Seekers of the Truth, episode 92. I am Chad.
And I am Les, and tonight we're going deep into one of America's most haunted homes, the Whaley House in sunny, ghost-filled San Diego.
It's been called a portal to the other side, a house built on tragedy, and even by the U.S. government, get this, the most haunted house in America.
Well, that is kind of a serious endorsement. I mean, if Uncle Sam is afraid to go in there, I mean, you know, something's up, right?
So the house was built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley. The house has a long and complex history that goes far beyond its Greek revival beauty. It's a mix of personal tragedy, violent deaths, and paranormal sightings that span generations.
All right, so buckle up, Flashlight Gang. We're digging into ghost sightings, shadow people, cold spots, and one really dramatic gallows story.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
Well, I was going to throw it to you to do your, hey, tell everybody where they can find us.
Oh, I shall. That's a good point. So you could find us live every other Tuesday, or at least we say every other Tuesday, but it's not always every other Tuesday, on Facebook and YouTube. We also try and put out a Saturday show, our Dead Air episode. That's not live, but pre-recorded. But that comes out on every other Saturday. And again, whenever we could fit it in, it comes out. But that's Facebook, YouTube. We are on all the major podcast providers. So listen to us on the one of your choice. All that we ask is you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review on your podcast provider to help boost us in the algorithms. Did the audio go up? Because it just boosted up in my headphones.
Yeah, you're higher now.
Okay. All right. So there is something going on there.
Yeah.
So like I said, Facebook, YouTube, podcast, we're on all those. We do have a website, explorersgroup.com. Hasn't been updated in a while, but there's still some info out there, some archive shows and some general information about us. So hit us up on any of those outlets, primarily Facebook. That's the one that we're most responsive to. And show topics, anything you guys want us to talk about in the future, anything you want to hear, anybody you would like for us to interview, send us your ideas. We'd be most appreciative. Now, that's done with the spiel.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
The Whaley House was built by Thomas Whaley, a New York City businessman who had moved to San Diego during the gold rush. He chose a spot in the Old Town to build his grand home, which also served as the general store for the town, a courtroom, and a theater over the years.
So a multi-purpose haunted house, kind of like a ghosty strip mall?
In a way, but there is a twist. He built it right over the site of the public executions for Old Town San Diego. specifically the hanging of James Yankee Jim Robinson in 1852, a few years before the house was built.
So you mean they actually knew the land had bad energy and they built it anyway?
Exactly. Thomas Whaley actually even witnessed at least 3 executions, one of them being that of Yankee Jim, who was convicted of grand larceny. But his hanging was especially gruesome. He was like 6'5", so
Oh wow.
basically too tall for the old noose system.
Yeah.
So when they roped him up, released the trap door, he basically dropped and his feet hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So he just basically slowly strangled as he was like kind of dangling there for nearly an hour. It took him to die.
Man. Well, that alone could explain a couple of the restless spirits, though, right?
It gets worse, though.
Oh,
After the Whaleys moved in, right? They reported hearing heavy footsteps echoing through the house, and Thomas actually believed it was Yankee Jim.
Oh, gosh.
And even visitors confirmed hearing the same stomping sounds over the centuries that have passed since then.
Jesus. So they're living in this fancy haunted house, and then tragedy just keeps hitting the family?
Yes. The Whaleys lost a baby son named Thomas Jr. to scarlet fever. Then their daughter Violet, she suffered a public scandal after a failed marriage and died by suicide. Now, she actually died in the house, but she did not attempt suicide in the house. She actually attempted suicide in the garden.
Okay.
And what she did was she shot herself in her chest with her father's pistol. The dad had heard the sound, ran out, grabbed her, and brought her back into the house.
Well, that is extremely heartbreaking. And I mean, she was pretty young too. Wasn't she only like 22?
Yeah, she was. And her last words in a letter were, "Mad from life's history, swift to death's mystery." The grief seemed to have stained the home. Visitors say they feel a sudden wave of sorrow on the second floor, especially near Violet's old room.
Jesus. So we've got a haunted location and a family full of trauma. It's kind of like a paranormal double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about there were several executions on the property that were witnessed by Mr. Whaley.
Right.
Then you lose a son to scarlet fever. So you have all that built up grief. Then you have a daughter who, like I said, she didn't commit suicide in the house, but she does die in the house.
Yeah.
And the one thing I like about this story in a lot of ways is the family, the Whaley family, talked about hearing somebody upstairs, like some kind of ghostly presence in their home while they lived there. So It's not something that starts, 20, 30 years later. This is something that started while they were living in the home, like
straight from the beginning.
Yeah, people would come to visit them and they would hear the footsteps upstairs, and everybody was accounted for in the house. And again, back then, it's not paratourism. Like, you're not going to sell your friends on the idea that there's a ghost upstairs and it's actually one of your workers that just runs across the floor quick. It's, there's no reason for it. Back then, you wouldn't want it to be the people that lived in the haunted house in town.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's too many, what do you want to call it? Too many murmurings under, behind closed doors and stuff. And you'd be considered the freaks or the outcasts or
yeah. Or you had some kind of pact with the devil and
right. A lot of superstitions and more highly religious people back then, I would say.
Yeah. So let's get into the good stuff now.
Okay.
What people have actually experienced inside the Whaley house. these aren't just old legends. We're talking about hundreds of visitor accounts, tour guides, testimonies, and even experiences from skeptics who walked away laughing, walked in laughing, right? And then walked out shaken.
Mm. And my favorite part, bring on the ghostly guest list.
Let's start with one of the most common sightings, the ghost of Yankee Jim Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many people report hearing the heavy booted footsteps, especially in the main hallway and the staircase area.
Yeah.
Often when no one else is on the floor, and some feel a choking sensation while standing on the stairway, right where Yankee Jim's body would have slowly died.
Well, choking ghosts are not okay. So we kind of need like a ghost HR department in that case.
Yeah. Now, tour guides say it's not uncommon for guests to suddenly grab their throats or start coughing, claiming they feel an invisible pressure.
Oh.
Some even getting to the point of lightheaded. One woman actually fainted at the base of the stairs and later said she felt like somebody had wrapped their hands around her neck.
Jesus. Well, that'll ruin a vacation photo op real fast.
Yeah, it would be kind of creepy. I mean, you are in an old house, though, too. So it's like, how much is you've heard these stories, you go in there and, there's dust or pollen in the air, and all of a sudden you get a little scratch in your throat and you start feeling like you're coughing, and, it's just natural, environmental.
It could also just be your own psyche kind of playing against you, like your anxiety or panic attack. You know what I mean? Where you get short of breath because you get so wrapped up into the stories or the subliminal fear, and it creates that.
Yeah. So next up, we got to talk about Violet Whaley,
yes,
the family's daughter who tragically took her life. Right. People say her energy is sorrowful and lingering. Visitors have heard soft crying, especially in her former bedroom or the upstairs hallway near it. Some women report getting sudden, inexplicable waves of deep sadness or depression when entering the area, and it vanishes once they leave.
Well, it seems almost like Violet's still grieving and essentially stuck in that moment.
Exactly. There's also an eerie incident where a young couple was taking a selfie on the second floor. And when they reviewed the pictures, there was clearly a blurry outline of a woman in a Victorian dress behind them. No one else was on the floor. When they showed the photo to the guide, she just nodded and said, "Yep, Violet shows up a lot."
Jesus, I'd delete the whole phone. No, I would store it for our case files.
Yeah. Well, and think about, like, again, this you're looking at stories like, are women listening to the stories, and I'm saying women in this case because of Violet being a woman, and grief stricken because of her divorce and
the scandal
of it all. And of course now, at least one of the two of us sitting here are divorced. So it's a lot different nowadays.
Yeah. It's more widely accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more commonplace. I mean, back then, you got to think about the time and context of it all. That was a major... People didn't get divorced back then. Like,
you got to make it work. You got to make it work for the sake of the family. Now it's like, dude, you got to fucking run.
So again, is this another one of those ones where people have a vested interest emotionally in the thing, so therefore they feel the emotion of the situation?
No, I'd say so. Yeah.
But then think about that. There's a lot of very good photographic evidence.
Which unfortunately I couldn't provide because I didn't have time to get the photos.
Yeah, because, why would we ever be prepared for a show?
And not only that, but I don't know how to present them in this new platform too. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out. But
Yeah.
we did make the attempt.
Yeah, if you go to I think it was whaleyhouse.com, they have a whole photo gallery. Some of them range from, questionable. Is it light trickery? Is it, people seeing something, the pareidolia effect of it all?
Yeah.
Some of it is orbs, and my personal opinion on orbs is it's dust, it's a bug, it's moisture. It's not paranormal.
Yeah.
But they do have some other really good photos, reflections in the mirror of like two people when you see one person in the frame and all of a sudden you see a second person in, that's not dressed in modern clothes, or the outlines, the way the light is hitting certain things, the outlines appear to be people, but translucent.
I put the link in the show notes. So or in the comments. So it's out there for anybody who wants to check it out.
Yeah, it's some really interesting stuff there. Now let's talk about Thomas Whaley himself, right? Visitors have spotted a stern man in period clothing peeking from behind curtains or standing at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, like he is surveying his domain. One guide said she opened up the museum early one morning and saw a figure standing in the parlor. She thought it was a maintenance man until he vanished as she walked towards him.
Well, that's like some Hogwarts kind of ghost stuff right there, right?
Yeah, you know about them Hogwarts, wouldn't you, son? They got lotions for that, right?
That's right. That's right.
Remember that cream we got? Coop. I'm sorry, basketball references will fly out occasionally. There's also...
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's the next one?
Okay. There's also Anna Whaley, Thomas's wife.
I was just going to say that's his wife, yeah.
Yeah. She is seen mostly near the dining room and the kitchen, where a sandwich maker should be.
Oh, jeez.
People...
keep going.
People say she appears in a green or lavender gown, and smells of a lavender perfume often follow her sightings, right? A group of school children once pointed to an upstairs window and said, "Who's the lady waving at us?" But the house was locked and empty at the time.
Well, of course kids saw her. I mean, kids always see ghosts. And isn't it weird? Now, maybe it was just a popular fragrance during the Victorian era, but it's always lavender. It's like always lavender or like a rose fragrance that were big with linking to spirits from, like I said, like the Victorian or the 1800 era.
Well, is it maybe just because that was a more common scent for back then? Like it was an easier to produce scent, so it was more...
Probably, but it's just funny how, like I said, I don't know if that was just the popular thing or, like you said, the easiest thing to produce. But it always seems to be like lavender or rose, some sort of a floral smell that is common.
Or maybe it's the natural smells, the natural scents, like the earth, the spirit energy.
Yeah.
The earth is kind of providing that, energy through the plants and everything around us. So,
and it's funny that you say that too, though. So the feminine always has the floral, but the masculine is always like a cigar or cigarette or some kind of a smoke smell. You know what I mean? Or like a whiskey smell or something.
I was going to say, or a wood smell, which are usually, if you think about cigars and whiskeys, they're generally oak or leather.
Yeah.
Leather comes up a lot too, which again is a cigar and whiskey type scenting aroma. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that is. It's kind of something interesting. It would kind of be interesting to compile like a list of, female ghost sightings, commonly associated traits, and like look for those correlations. Like, it's women the women are dressed in this period time frame, go back and look and say, like, well, what perfumes were available? Like,
Yeah.
what were scents? Because, I mean, I'm sure, CK1 was not available back then.
Right, exactly. But it would be, to your point, it would be cool to see, all right, this spirit is associated with this fragrance. They died during this time period, and if there is like a list or you know what I mean, a commonality
Mm.
of this fragrance within these decades, that's kind of an interesting note,
Mhm.
that like, hey, that was a popular fragrance during that time, and you know, you could kind of link it to all these people that passed, almost like, if, oh, I smell roses, all right, well, that had to be somebody from like 1820 to 1860, let's just say, hypothetically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could almost pinpoint down and narrow down to a specific person or event,
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be pretty interesting to use, that
almost like
kind
a
of information.
forensic kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Paranormal
Yeah.
forensics.
Yeah. Use it to build your composite, your profile of who you're looking for, or who you're communicating with. Because it'd be, if you're doing like a blind spirit box section, it would be really interesting to be able to call them out by name, because you smell, rose perfume, and we knew, grandma whatever used to wear rose perfume when she was younger, and you could call her by her name, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden maybe it triggers, better responses.
Yeah, exactly. You
Because
be
then
more
you
specific.
could stop doing that stupid, well, what's your name? And then speaking right away before the ghost could even have time to answer. Because nothing annoys me more than people that can't wait 5 seconds to 10 seconds while doing a spirit box to ask another question.
Right, right. So what's the next ghost?
Well, I don't want to tell you. There's a phantom baby, right? Some guests have reported hearing a baby crying softly, often coming from an upstairs room or a nursery, but no children are allowed during certain nighttime tours.
Yeah.
The sound does not seem to come from outside, and audio recordings have picked up the crying, even when no one heard it.
Hmm. So the devices are picking up. People aren't physically hearing it.
Nope.
They're
They're
just
they're not physically hearing it, but it's like on recorders and stuff like that. They're hearing a baby cry.
interesting. Interesting. And were there any reports or anything like that of a child passing in the Whaley house?
Well, there was Thomas Jr. who died of
Oh yeah,
scarlet
yeah.
fever.
Well, how old was he again? Did
It
it say?
doesn't. I didn't see an age for him,
Okay.
so he could have been a baby. Could there have been maybe another baby that had lived in the house at some point? Could be that. Could be maybe part of the major scandal was that Violet had a child
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
maybe wasn't her husband's, or
And they
something like that. I'm
had off the baby.
wildly speculating at this point,
Oh
but
yeah. But it would make sense. It would make sense. So it's another hot spot.
well, another hotspot is the courtroom in the house.
Mm.
It was once the San Diego's very first commercial courtroom, and
Okay.
still holds energy. Visitors have heard gavels bang, shuffles of papers, and even murmured arguments in empty rooms, and some have claimed to see ghostly shadows sitting in the gallery benches, as if a trial was in session.
Like a ghost jury, or a spooky civic duty, right? Still doing their spooky civic duty. That's creepy. Kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of Ghostbusters too,
Yeah,
right? In the
yeah,
beginning,
the brothers or whatever they
the
were.
Scolari brothers.
Now I was watching a thing on YouTube earlier today about a guy who years ago went to the Whaley House,
Mhm.
and one of his first major experience in the house, he'd only been there, like, this was his second time going, and it was years between the visits, was he was in the courtroom, and it was him and his dad, and he asked there was some massacre in the town where he's from, and he said to his dad, I wonder if people here would have heard about the massacre because it happened around the same time this house would have been occupied by the Whaleys and was used as a court and all that.
Yeah.
And he heard somebody say Sue. He's, looking around, there's nobody else around. It's just him and his dad. Doesn't know why he would hear Sue.
Right.
Now, you're in a courtroom. So was it a lawsuit? Somebody was being sued. Okay.
Yeah.
First one, right? The massacre that happened in the town where he lived was a band of Sioux Indians.
Oh.
So was it somebody responding, yes, that we did hear about it? We heard it was the Sioux.
Yeah.
Or being in a courtroom, was it something to do with like this person's being sued?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So that was something, I saw today. Kind of always like to listen to some of these people, especially people that are actually like filming on these locations, not ghost adventures, that type of stuff. More like people who have had like little personal things and are telling you the story and then going back to the location. It was just an interesting little video, but that was his, thing. And it took him years to come up with the Sioux Indian part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was like thinking about it, and he's like, I had asked my dad if he thought they would have heard of this massacre, and then he heard the thing say Sioux. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And let's not forget the classic cigar smoke phenomenon.
Here we go.
Numerous people, especially men, have said they've smelled strong cigar smoke out of nowhere, usually in the courtroom or the parlor.
Makes sense.
Despite a no smoking policy, some believe it is Thomas Whaley checking in on his house.
Or he's just chilling with his ghost stogie, watching the tours go by.
I hope that's what we get to do. I'll take my humidor with me.
That's right.
And finally, there's one of the eeriest types of sightings, the disembodied faces.
Oh.
People have snapped photos of the windows, and they show faces that aren't visible in real time. In one well-known case, a visitor photographed a pale man's face glaring from a second-story window that was behind a locked room with no access.
It's kind of like the house itself is watching you at that point.
That's what many say. There's like a lingering presence everywhere in that house. Doors lock on by themselves, lights flicker with no reasons. There's cold spots appear in the middle of a warm San Diego day. Now you got to think like San Diego's like year-round average temperature is 73 or something like that degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the most beautiful, like temperate, like it stays 73. It gets a little bit warmer, it gets a little bit cooler, but it stays like in that 70s comfortable level.
Yeah.
For you to notice a cold spot in 70 degrees, like inside of a house too, like it's not like, you had all the windows open and there's a cold breeze. It's a 70-degree breeze.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because it's pretty much consistent. It's not like around here, like one day could be freaking 90 something, and then the next day it could be 67. Like Pennsylvania fluctuates like so, insanely. But yeah. And so let's also look at like how many houses, back to the Whaley, how many houses have a ghost list that includes an outlaw, a grieving mother, a baby, and a Victorian teenager.
7. 7 houses.
To be precise.
Yes, exactly 7. Well, not many. I mean, the Whaley House is like a spiritual vortex, and everyone who walks through it seems to leave with a story.
Yeah, which says a lot,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I,
go ahead.
I was going to agree with you. Yeah, it's a lot like when you hear like, oh, it's the most haunted house in America, and you start running through your head like, how do they call it the most haunted house in America? And then you look at the number of people who are just taking a tour of the Whaley House,
Yeah.
the daytime tour. It's not a ghost tour. It's not, some kind of haunted event. People just walking through the house and are having experiences, seeing people, feeling sensations, smelling stuff. It does it. Yeah, would I say like, oh, this house or that house has more tragic history or whatever? Yeah, I could probably find you about 5 or 6 houses, in an hour's time that probably have more tragedy built into them. But
Right.
how many of those houses do we hear, oh, this house is haunted? And then, it becomes famous and somebody else moves into the house and is like, I lived here 28 years and never experienced anything they claimed happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot about like the Amityville Horror House. Like, the Lutzes claimed all this stuff happened, and then people have lived in that house ever since, and seldom do you ever hear a story come from the modern owners of any kind of weird activity.
Yeah. I mean,
You
yeah.
know,
The Lutzes was extreme.
yeah, like you don't go from the walls are bleeding, there's a voice yelling, "Get out" to a priest, a pig ghost thing outside the window. Like,
Mhm.
you don't go to that from all that stuff happening in a 28-day window to, hey, they moved out and like 6 days later and all cleaned up.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Maybe
really?
they took when they left, maybe they took some sort of an artifact that wasn't theirs originally, but they took it along with them during the move, you know what I mean? And it just rid it, like it went with it. I don't know. I don't know. But you're right. You have such an extreme case to nothing.
Mhm.
Whereas the Whaley House is like pretty much anybody that steps foot in there has some sort of a experience of some sort. You know what I mean? A sighting, a sensation, a feeling, a smell, or something.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not like terribly scary stuff. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
feel like you're choking would be scary.
yeah. That
But,
one.
for the most part, it is like seeing somebody, standing at the top of a set of stairs, like that isn't there all of a sudden when you go to say something, or taking a photo and all of a sudden you got what appears to be a woman in a, Victorian era gown standing behind you, and hearing, a baby crying.
That one would get me the most.
Yeah.
That one would freak me out the most.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like all random, like stuff, but also it's not the, I woke up with somebody standing over top me or with their hands reached out at me. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just like normal, like, I don't want to say normal ghost behavior, but like,
Yeah.
just like,
Typical ghost
yeah, like,
stories or sightings.
yeah, not scary. So it's not like you would feel like, oh, it's a demon, it's an evil spirit. No, even like Yankee Jim, he bangs around on the floor with boots
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Like, oh no, Yankee Jim, don't choke me.
Yeah, that's true. But Alicia says hi, and Cindy says, "Hey, I'm late. That's fine, Cindy. You're here. That's all that matters." And they're coming in from YouTube, so we got a couple YouTube watchers. I don't know about Facebook. I didn't get a chance to share it around as much as I wanted to. So
So,
what's the next part?
so we're going to talk about the investigations and some more evidence, kind of expand on this, right? So if you're on
Mhm.
the fence about this case, right, wondering if all of this is just a bunch of spooky storytelling, well, let's buckle in here. The Whaley House has been the site of dozens of paranormal investigations, and
Mhm.
some of them have produced compelling, if not chilling, evidence.
Well, and like real stuff, not just I got the willies in the hallway, though, right?
Exactly. So let's start with one of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
The world famous Ghost Adventures.
Well, isn't that just in oh no, that was going back a little while. I thought they were just there in their most recent season, or was that a different house in San Diego?
They might have been. I know they were there years ago. I haven't honestly. I watched a couple episodes of this new season and haven't put it back on since.
Yeah,
So
yeah, not as good as the first few seasons.
yeah. So when Zach Bagans and his crew investigated the Whaley House back in 2011, I just had to read it like that because my disdain is noticeable. They picked up multiple EVPs, and for those who don't know, EVP is electric voice phenomena,
Mhm.
including what sounded like "Leave now." Imagine that, and a male
Mhm.
voice saying "Yankee Jim" in a low growl.
Well, if disembodied voice is shouting "Leave now," I'm not going to stick around to ask for clarification.
Yes, you would.
Well, that's what we're there for, right?
Yeah,
We would have to stick
yeah.
around.
I know you too well. Just like the one time we had a visitor with us, and they questioned that whole like, why is it always get out? And you're like, nobody said it was get out. All we said was we just heard something.
Yeah.
You know. But for people who aren't out there actively seeking this stuff out, it'd be a smart move to run.
Yeah. But
Because
I
you
mean,
don't
you
know.
know me though. I sleep through it
Yeah, well, I was gonna say you just doze
during the
off.
active investigation.
Les is the only guy I know that would get possessed by a spirit and fall asleep while he's possessed. We'd be in a seance. Les would be there. Yes, it's Yankee Jim.
That's very true. It's very true. Well,
But
look at when we were at the Haldeman, remember? And we actually had that weird noise. I was literally doing the EVP session with my eyes closed. I was seconds away from going out. And then we heard that noise, and I'm like, what was that? What was that? We thought it was the other kid in the room.
yeah,
Oh, that was a
yeah,
good one. I still look back at that one. I don't know what that was.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's on our website too. Right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, if you're ever interested, go check it out. It's a very weird sound, but it's also one of those sounds that has been reported, much like the smells we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sound that has been reported at several different investigations over 70 some years.
Yeah. I think Holzer was brought
Yeah.
that up, and when we did
Yeah,
when we
one
were,
of his investigations. And when I read that, I had messaged you and I'm like, hey, by the way, this is, sound is also reported back in a like 1960 something investigation by Holzer in
yeah.
like New York.
Yeah. And what we're talking about is for lack of better definition, I guess, it sounds like a mountain lion growl or roar or whatever. Like, wow. Like I can't replicate it, but it was very weird. It
Yeah.
sounded like a mountain lion.
Yeah. And the weird thing was, yes, we were like by the river and by the railroad tracks and all that stuff, but there was no trains going by. There was no boats on the river.
Nope.
And I'm pretty sure there was no mountain lion outside.
No, I mean that was probably around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It was pretty late. And that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that same sound, and we recorded that same sound with another paranormal group we were part of.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just weird. But anyways, moving along.
So not just stopping with the EVPs, right? They also captured an unexplained cold spot that moved from room to room.
Oh, that's interesting.
Using thermal imaging, they watched the temperature drop by nearly 15 degrees Fahrenheit in a single hallway where there were no vents or open windows.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't I mean, obviously, it's not just bad insulation. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't imagine a 15-degree drop in temp would just because it's a hallway. You know what I mean? If there's no windows or anything, if there's no moving air, you're
Yeah.
not going to have a fluctuation like that. And
Yeah.
even with like poor insulation, like we said before, with San Diego, with that temperate, constant climate,
Mhm.
you know, you shouldn't have a fluctuation of 15 degrees.
Yeah, and you would think like if it was, even if it was air current from somewhere else in the house,
Mm-hmm.
somebody closed a door somewhere, a pocket of air got pushed, it wouldn't drop 15 degrees.
No,
'Cause
I
it would
mean,
be
unless maybe if they were going into a basement, like an old stone basement,
yeah, there. Yeah, that could be.
but just walking through hallways, I wouldn't,
Mhm.
that shouldn't be.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like even 15 degrees, if you disperse that air from some other part of the house, it's not going to be every particle of air in a area is going to drop 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Like you may have one little bit of the air that hits 15 and then dissipates back to closer to normal temperatures. For it to
Yeah.
drop 15 degrees and then kind of move down a hallway, to
That's
me,
not right.
yeah, it doesn't add up in the sense of like things you can write off easily. That is not something you could write off super easily.
Right. Right.
If it's real.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
If it's a real like actual evidence, then or if it's a real occurrence, not even saying evidence, saying occurrence, like this was a real, not put on by some kind of manipulation of equipment, that's very hard to write off.
Very, yes.
Now, another interesting moment came from the courtroom area. Zach sat at the judge's bench and asked if any spirits were present. His EMF detector, a device that measures electromagnetic fluctuation, spiked violently, and then on playback, a whisper was heard saying, "Get out of my court."
Well, they are known for the get outs, aren't they?
Well, it's always something dark. It's always something evil. It's always like I was saying earlier, like you have all these stories of people, like the worst thing is feeling like you're choking.
Yeah.
Everything else has been kind of nice or emotion based, not angry, but like sad, or hearing crying, or hearing somebody walking, or seeing somebody kind of standing somewhere watching over their home, or seeing Mrs. Whaley kind of like between the kitchen and the dining room areas and stuff like that, areas where she was probably super proud of what her family had achieved, and her family and them eating together, and the emotions of being together like that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you always get some kind of, well, it was a low growl. Well, let's take it this way. The man was hung and then strangled to death. He didn't die from his neck breaking. So maybe it wasn't a low growl. Maybe it was the damage to his voice going into the afterlife, where he, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not meant to be evil. It's just what his last, voice inflection would have been when he was dying. So maybe that's what he took to the other side with him.
Right.
Maybe he wasn't guilty of his charge, and he was strung up anyway, and he's trying to linger on to get somebody to exonerate his name. And it's always evil with them. It's always dark. It's always,
or a demon.
Yeah. I used to like it. It has become so, it can't just be a ghost. Like, and here's the thing. If you've had a religious conviction change and now everything you're out there doing is going to be a demon, please be open with your public and your viewership and say, hey guys, my faith is really this, and when I'm dealing with these things, my faith version of the faith that I follow says this is what it is. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as. I'm not going to call it this. I'm going to call it by what my religious background says.
Right.
Which would be absolutely fine, because then just like separate that part of it. Like understand like some religions believe all spirits are demons and it's not a ghost, it's a demon pretending to be a ghost. And like, first of all, why would they pretend? Like, what purpose? Like, they're evil, they're the spawns of hell. Like, they could pretend to trick you into doing things, but like they could also just trick you into doing things. Like, we assign the name to them. They don't necessarily give us their name to start with.
True. So what's next?
I don't know.
But what about the other results of their equipment?
Well, let's talk. Or you could have read your line.
Well,
let's
kind of did before.
Yeah, okay. No, you didn't, but whatever. I make little quips for you in here, but never mind. Let's talk about their other equipment results, right?
Yes.
Investigators have used spirit box devices that rapidly scan radio frequencies, supposedly allowing spirits to communicate through words. And at least 2 separate teams reported hearing the names Violet and Thomas come through the static during their sessions upstairs.
Well, that is some clear, intelligent response stuff, not just random, like jarble.
And if you also think about it, like, Violet isn't something you're going to hear on the radio.
Not really.
How many songs have Violet in them?
Not many that I could think of.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many bands would have the name Violet?
Not many. Yeah, not many.
Yeah, so it's not, and it's also, unless you have a local DJ whose name is Violet, then maybe that would be, write that off. So it's not a common term that would come up on a radio scan.
Right.
Thomas,
that'd be more common.
That would be more common. Violet might be a street name in there, but the odds that you would be asking, oh, what's your name? And you would get, oh, on Violet Street is the Sombrero Hut. The odds of that happening are very slim. It's like,
and then you just get that little clip of Violet, not the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sometimes, like, spirit box stuff, like the one I captured there in out at Stephanie's farm, where you hear, like, to me, I hear a Gettysburg, like somebody struggling to say something.
Yeah.
If it came out crystal clear Gettysburg,
then you're like, oh, that's just radio.
That's local radio. You're catching a local radio commercial, playing through, or the station identification for this, the radio channel.
Yeah, but the fact that you asked the question of, where were you shot, or where were you stationed, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what you had asked. And through the and the join now, and we talked about this before. You could almost, in a way, differentiate. The radio sounds have a different register. They have a different tone when they come through. But then when you have those words or voices that come through, it's almost like a more monotone, kind of lower register. And like, you asked the question, where were you stationed, or where were you,
I think it was, where were you wounded?
Yeah. And it was like, it was almost like a wounded person trying to say Gettysburg. Yeah. And the fact that it was like Gettysburg, not exactly like that, but similar to it. I don't know. To me, it was a different tone of the voice. It wasn't radio-esque. It wasn't like that. Hey, buy destination plus tires and blah blah blah. Blah. You know what I mean? It didn't have that radio sound.
Yeah, not processed or compressed like a radio microphone would be and signal. So yeah, like I said, if it came out just like one sound, just straight out Gettysburg, yeah, I would say commercial. But the fact that you can hear it,
it's like we're struggling.
Yeah, like almost somebody who's like choking on blood or something like that would sound.
That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So
Cindy asks a good question. Do you think voices are going on all the time in a cycle in these haunted places, or waiting for interaction? And perhaps we just don't do enough investigations to pick up more stuff regularly. I think in some cases, a residual would be more of like the cycle where it's like played on a loop. But the intelligent hauntings, I think, would be more interaction, like to her point, waiting on someone to speak with them or interact with them. So I think it is both.
Yeah, I think like maybe like the baby crying in the Whaley house might just be a residual. I mean, they did have several children that, you know, grew up in the house and stuff like that. It might just be that residual energy.
Yeah.
Just playing
like
that time.
Theory kind of thing.
Yeah. Where you're getting, you know, somebody asking, like, who am I speaking with? And you get Violet. That's intelligent. That's something, you know, it's direct contact response. It's question, response. So that to me shows a little more intelligence or some kind of, you know, it's not constantly playing the word Violet out there, because otherwise you'd just be picking it up as any recording done. You know, you go to do a voice note on your phone and you would have in the background of your voice note somebody saying Violet.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting. Now, one researcher from the San Diego Paranormal Research Society,
that's a mouthful,
SDPRS, DADV, did a solo overnight study. She claimed to have felt an invisible tug on her shirt while near Violet's room and reported her audio equipment shutting off repeatedly despite being fully charged.
It's kind of like the ghost versions of "No pictures, please."
Photographic evidence is also significant.
Mm-hmm.
There are numerous guests who have submitted photos that show transparent figures, light anomalies, and unexplained faces. One famous image from the 2007 shows what looks like a translucent man peering out from a second-story window in the daylight when the house was completely locked.
I've seen that photo. It's creepy, and you could even, you know, make out facial features. I think it was in that link, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So check the link at the beginning of the comments, people.
Yep. Now, tour guides keep an unofficial archive of these images and many eerily consistent images.
And I think that's important. Is the fact that it is so consistent.
Yeah. Same figures, same locations, different cameras, different visitors.
That's huge, you know. And it rules out one person faking it over and over, and you know, that's not some like repeated pattern. Like you said, if it were the same camera, maybe there was some sort of a glitch, or maybe there was, you know, like a burst mode, and it just did several pictures in a row, and it was picking up whatever that anomaly was, and then after it reset itself, and they may take another one, and it wouldn't be there or something, you know. But
yeah, well, that's true with all the camera stuff, but then there's the motion detector incident. In 2013, a private investigation team installed motion sensors in several rooms. They captured multiple triggers, especially around 3 a.m.,
Of course.
but there was no one inside. The footage showed no movement, yet the devices were activated in succession as if someone or something was walking through the house.
So it's like a 3 a.m. ghost rush hour tour, and that is when all the spooky stuff is supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, let's not forget about psychic mediums. Yeah. Now, this one kind of may lean you more towards this person was at least telling some part of the truth, right?
Okay. All right.
Over the years, dozens have visited the Whaley House. One notable case involved a medium who described Violet's suicide in hauntingly specific detail, down to the way she held the gun and the exact room configuration without ever having read historical documents or seen a floor plan.
And she got it right?
Mm-hmm. Down to the smallest details. She even mentioned the red ribbon tied in Violet's hair.
Oh.
Something only found in personal family letters and not on the public record.
Well, that's kind of the kind of thing that makes the hair in the back of your neck stand up, right?
Exactly. That level of accuracy led, kind of puts weight to the idea that whatever lingers in the Whaley house isn't just a residual energy.
Right.
It might be intelligent, active, and aware of who enters the home.
Well, and maybe even trying to communicate, or protect their home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to think about it like people who maybe are more open to this stuff are going to get better interactions.
Yeah.
Or they're the ones who see the people, like they see the person at the top of the stairs, like maybe because they're more open to these things, be it whatever reason, they may not necessarily believe in these things, but maybe they're chemically more based to see these things when they are around, and this house has this intelligence to it that it can seek out that beacon of light that's shining into the ghost realm. When it enters the home, they allow themselves to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some people have bad energy around them, or are bad energy, and the house, basically the Whaley family present themselves like to show that person like, hey, you're not going to cause a problem. You're not going to do something bad here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And, that's what a lot of investigators do believe, is that some of the spirits, especially Thomas, aren't hostile, like I've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just territorial.
Right.
Like it's his house, it's his legacy, it's his courtroom. He's kind of keeping an eye, even though he's, long since passed away, he's keeping an eye on his house and, keeping his legacy alive by, people coming to the house now to investigate, people coming to do tours. Like, without these things happening, the Whaley House is just a really old house in Old Town San Diego.
Yeah.
Like, it's not anything special. I mean, it's a beautiful house, but it's not anything different than every old town has.
Yeah. Well, like maybe it's not haunted in a scary way, but in a proud, stubborn ghost kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely like one interpretation. It's what I would lean towards.
Yeah.
But one thing is certain: when investigators walk into the Whaley house, they don't just leave with equipment readings, right?
Yeah.
They're leaving with experiences that do stay with them for a lifetime.
Okay, but we got to ask, what do the skeptics say?
Oh, they always say something stupid. Well, skeptics do argue that the stories are exaggerated.
Mhm.
And the house's haunted reputation helps sell tickets. It's power tourism.
Right, right.
Some say cold spots are just drafts in old houses, shadows are just tricks of the eyes, and noises are old floorboards and imagination.
Mhm. I mean, I do love a good ghost tour T-shirt, right?
hmm Well, the house has been commercialized, that it does blur the lines between historical site and haunted attraction.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean those stories aren't real to the people that experience them.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Truth lives where belief and experience meet, right?
Well said, Les.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
So,
what are your final thoughts? What do you
final
think?
final thoughts on Sally Jesse Raphael show. I don't remember if she was the one that did. No, that was Jerry Springer.
Jerry
did
Springer.
final.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is the Whaley House truly haunted? Now, of course, we're never going to know for sure.
Yeah.
But with its layered history, the executions, the suicide, the personal grief, it's no wonder that some people, when they step inside, feel something.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And whether they're a true believer or just looking for a spooky night in Old Town San Diego, the Whaley House rather, I'm sorry, it will leave an impression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, like, to me, history doesn't always stay buried.
Especially not when it's buried right under the living room.
Yeah, so I
Well,
mean, like,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, I just had like one more thought on it. Like,
Go ahead.
we were talking about like the deaths in the house, like the execution,
Mhm.
Violet dying actually in the house, the son dying in the house, but we're also the family had to grieve all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't just like Thomas was grieving, like the mom was grieving, his wife and
And there
just
were
think about,
other kids too.
yeah,
They
yeah,
had other
yeah.
children that lived, um, Violet and Thomas Jr. had a sister who lived into like the early 1900s, mid 1900s,
Hmm.
and would come back and visit the house.
Yeah.
Like, so these people, it wasn't just those little things. It's the whole, like you're maybe the youngest sibling, and all of a sudden you're the only child.
Yeah.
Like the Von Erich family. The saddest thing is you ever watch Kevin Von Erich, the last living Von Erich brother, the famous Von Erich wrestling family.
Hmm.
They did a documentary and he's like talking to his sons and they're like, I think he had twin boys or something like that. And he was talking to him and they're like, yeah, Dad, about brothers. And he's like, well, I was a brother and now I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's family really had to grieve that out and,
Oh, hell yeah.
to lose that many members of the family and, not knowing the circumstances behind, how scandalous this divorce was for this time frame. Could it have been a lot of other things, involved?
Yeah. Well, Cindy has another really interesting question here. She said, what about some people think we have auras around our bodies, like some kind of color or something that we can't see? Perhaps the spirits in a different dimension can see that in us. I think that's really interesting. And she says, just wondering about why some people have more interactions than others. That's kind of an interesting point. And I wonder what the colors of the auras actually mean. Like, are certain colors more susceptible to be seen by spirits, or give the person with that specific color more sensitivity? I don't know, but that's I never really tried to connect auras to paranormal communication. That's an interesting thought. That's something I'd like to look into more, actually.
Well, there is a condition, and for the life of me right now, I can't remember what it's called. Where people assign colors and numbers to people.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, when they see the person,
Mm-hmm.
they see like the color spectrum to them.
Yeah.
And like usually like certain colors in their brain or in their how they see the people, certain colors dictate like this is a good person, this is a trustworthy person, like the certain balance of color. And then like people that aren't good people have a darker color set, and it's like maybe 3 colors like in that spectrum.
Right.
So I was just talking about this with somebody the other day, because they actually give people numbers when they meet them, and like they actually see a color, and like if you say this person's name to them, like, oh, Eric something, they'll say, oh, blue 15.
Yeah.
They have no clue why they pick, like the blue comes to them because when they see the person, they see blue.
Yeah.
The number is just a random thing that their brain just says 15 when they see the person. So even if they haven't seen the person in 5 years, you say that 5 years later, they'll say blue 15.
Yeah.
Because that's how their brain just logs all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to figure out what that is and do a little bit more digging.
Synesthesia.
What is it?
Synesthesia.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Let's look into that more and see what we could dig up about it. I mean, that would be a really interesting show topic, I think. Thank you, Cindy, as always. So,
well, we have any other questions? Because I don't have the chat open to see it.
No, that we covered. Cindy had a lot of good things to ask today. So,
yep, thank you, Cindy. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the haunted journey through the Whaley House. This has been Xplorers episode 92.
That's right. And I'm Les, still afraid of dark hallways.
And I'm Chad, still trying to explain them. Until next time, stay curious.
Indeed. All right. Good night, everybody.